What up? What up? What up? It is another episode of the Shark Cove presented to you by Esports with Emmerich. Of course, I'm your host, Emmerich, and joining me today on the Shark Cove is just me, myself, and I. We've done a couple day streams, and 2 days ago it was a tough stream. It was a tough slate, one that I didn't particularly like. We got out with a little bit of profit. Yesterday, I liked it quite a bit more. Last minute, decided to go ahead and max the $10. Didn't play the main, just played the 44, just played the 333. Decided to max the $10, put 14 entries in, and I was going to hedge against what I was thinking everywhere else. And that was essentially that anyone's legend was going to win. So I had 14 LGD lineups. I ended up taking first, third, fifth, seventh, and cashing a couple other places where I didn't have anyone's legend. It was without question the beginning of the LGD era in the LPL. I don't know how else to put it. Two really clean games by LGD. Two really clean games by TT. That's hard to kind of fathom. Nongshim doing Nongshim things. They seem to be the team that we want to target in the LCK for or against, whatever it might be. I hope that the next time that they play, the LCK bias continues to have an effect on their ownership, because they were they weren't owned at all. And I think that people will catch on, but people are reluctant to play the LCK. Unfortunately, we don't get them on a 5-game slate. That would be the absolute nut high. If we could get them on the 5-game Saturday slate, unfortunately, it'll be on the Sunday slate. Look, you take what you can get. We're going to get them twice a week, and so we'll take it from there. In terms of what we've got going on today, let's go ahead and pull up some of the games that we saw yesterday. Let's just review them before we hop into tomorrow. So that game that we talked about, LGD, the first game was what we kind of expected from this game, just flipped. LGD came out, played really well. I'm not even trying to say, maybe Hai Chao, is that how we say his mid name, or the mid's name? I don't know. Look, assume they played really well. Fearness was able to go ahead and scale. This game was just at no point ever in doubt. Look, if your team is of equal footing to the other team, and you're picking Rise and Xin Zhao right now, look, man, there's some issues. There's some issues with that game plan. So wasn't surprised. Thought might this lead to a LGD loss, and maybe even still an anyone's legend. A premium score. They did get 10 kills here. So Betty, scored all right. ZDZ was all right. I mean, these scores wouldn't have been terrible if they could go ahead and win 2 more. However, the next game, I didn't really like their comp, LGD, from that standpoint. This is a very spring split meta kind of comp. Not that there's any type of cutting edge thing on anyone's legend, but they just played it cleaner. They played it better, and they deserve that 2-0. So, we saw that when LGD played Victory 5 that they, looked better at times, and that's always been their MO. Even when it was different components to this team, that they would play good, but they just wouldn't be able to kind of sustain it through an entire series. So that was exciting. I mean, look, everybody was excited about anyone's legend. They had played some clean series. They looked good. They looked like they were maybe taking a step over, but they took a step back here. Forge sucks. I've told you guys that many a times. He made me eat my words a couple times in spring with the fantasy scores that he had. But certainly, man, the difference between people that are of talent and good playing Corki versus guys like Forge is immeasurable. The other game, TT and WE, WE was the only team that I had absolutely no exposure to. And I'll tell you a little bit after we get into these next 2 games, or these next 2 series, kind of where I got there from the video. But TT, really clean games, 12-1 here, and then an 8-3 win. Just, I don't know what else to say. SMLZ is terrible. This team, WE, looks just absolutely atrocious, and that was very foreseeable when you look back and kind of see what kind of indicators we could be looking at. On the other side of things, man, not a lot to say here. The second game for T1 and Sandbox isn't included here. I don't really think that we need to talk too much about it. They kind of played to what you would expect. T1 should take care of business against Sandbox. It was just a matter of, how would they score? They scored all right. Because Anyone's Legend was just absolute chalk and scored so poorly, T1 catapulted itself into some of those optimals. Red Force came out and put up a huge 20-burger, beating Kwangdong 20-14. BDD, not the star of the show. It was, friend of the pod, friend of the show, Guggs' boy Ghost, who got him there, man. Like 8-2-8. There was remarks in the Discord about how are they going to let Ghost get his Kaisa. I mean, quite frankly, like I said, I don't think anybody's worried about Ghost overall, and certainly not target banning champions against him. There are bigger issues that you might have when playing Nongshim, if you can call them that. So no surprise they let Kaisa go through. They're not going to ban that. Ghost has another good game, really off the back of, I think it was like a double or a triple kill in the second to last fight, and then a couple assists at the fountain. But nevertheless, a 15 and a 20, a 35-point total on a day where some of those LPL teams, either, if you're playing TT, you didn't get the kills that you wanted. If you're playing WE, you certainly didn't get the kills that you wanted. Anyone's Legend, Mega Chalk, LGD, not a lot of people were playing them. So, that was kind of it. So, I talked about some of these teams rather sporadically on my daytime podcast, at one point even thinking that TT was LGD and getting it all completely mixed up. But the point remains that, some of these teams had shown signs. None of these teams were very good or they weren't much better than the teams that they were playing. So, you had to take that with some consideration. And, I read some of Gelati's article. I don't always agree with everything that he writes. I don't agree with everything that he says, but he makes a lot of good points. And if you're not subscribed to his Patreon, I highly recommend it. If you're playing any type of volume for DFS, or you're looking to make any type of bets, it's an invaluable resource at the very least for some of the data that's collected there and some of the percentages that you can gather. But nevertheless, some of the insight. When it came to Kwangdong, they had a good opening series from a fantasy standpoint. And by they, I mean Teddy, Keen had a decent scoring series that time. But, they weren't impressive in that win. And then they lost to HLE, who we regard as a pretty bad team. Then they go and lose to Sandbox, who, might have looked better, but we still don't necessarily regard them as a very good team. So while this KDF team was one that tended to be a good place to go fantasy-wise last split, I was a little hesitant. And then there was a comment made too, and this was in the Discord. I forget who made it, and it wasn't a bad comment. It was just a general inquiry that who's going to be chalkier, T1 or KDF? Now, in my mind, that wasn't even a question. It didn't even register for me initially. I didn't even come up with that. I'm glad whoever did put it in the Discord did, because it just made me think that, maybe I'm discounting how popular KDF might end up being if people are asking that question. It's a good question to ask. It might have been a question that was asked on the Cove if I had a guest yesterday. So I do appreciate whoever it was. I want to say it was Tampa Mike, but if I'm wrong, I apologize for whoever did do it so they get proper credit. But I really wanted to kind of hone in on Nongshim. As bad as that felt, this was a team that had multiple games with like 15 or 16 kills in losses. Some of those should have been wins. And so I thought that they were a really good target. On the other hand, if I wanted to go ahead and hedge against that, I did put together a lineup that did very poorly, but I thought it was kind of interesting in its construction. I didn't want to put a ton into this KDF team, but I did like what Teddy brought. So I did I think it was like a Betty captain with 4 AL, 2 TT, and Teddy in the ADC spot. I thought it was kind of interesting without like stacking the whole KDF team, because you couldn't really stack them with Betty captain and KDF. I don't believe. As I recall, I think you had to have Teddy as the captain. So this was a way to get both of them there, but position Betty, who I thought was going to be a higher scoring player in a win with Teddy, and then another team that I thought was going to score really well and win in TT. There was other insight that I got from Gelati's article in regards to making that decision. I mean, look, I have eyes. I've watched WE play. I appreciate the picture that Kevin posted in the Discord of a WE playoff series against Rare Adam or Vici or whoever it was at the time. Certainly does not indicate that WE is better than RA. But look, WE hadn't had a lead at 10 minutes, I think maybe once all spring, and it hasn't had one yet this season. They're a really bad team that has lucked their way into a couple wins throughout spring, and they were typically against bad teams. They had a good game against Weibo, but look, SMLC is not good. His Azrael is probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen. Oh man, wow, we've got some overpriced stuff. Let's do this. We got that blocked. Man, hang on, guys, hang on. Here we go. This is amazing. Cool. I think I might have them. It was Abrasive who made that comment. Okay. Yeah, look, I thought it was a good comment. You brought up a good point. I thought KDF was a fine play. I had no problem with them, but I didn't consider them anywhere in nearly as popular as what T1 or anyone's legend was going to be. And you bringing that up just kind of jogged that. They certainly did feel like a favorite. And if I was playing cash, they were a team I was probably going to consider. How do we do this? This is incredible. All right. Sick. Sorry, we got some spammers here, man. I don't know, Spell. I feel like you brought them here. That's on you, man. You need to police it. Oh, by the way, guys, I wanted to also, now we got a couple people watching. I wanted to bring out the drink for the day because I think this is going to trigger some people. But don't knock it until you try it. If you don't like olives, you're probably not going to like it. I've got a Modelo here. You could do any type of lager. Yingling is a preferred one, but typically, the cheap light lagers that don't have a ton of taste, and you put some olives in there with a little bit of olive juice. It's delicious. And then you can eat the olive afterwards. It's like a little reward. Sometimes you even drink your beer a little faster to get to the olives. So, yeah, I know how a lot of people feel about that. It's kind of weird, right? Let's hop into the games. Let's take a look at what we got. Let's drop this. Let's go ahead and pop this. We've got OMG with the boy Cream. Mega Dog against LNG. LNG is over here at a minus 410 favorite. Definitely deserved. Yeah, olives, man. Green olives. That's what I got. I didn't know it either. I didn't think so, Spell, but I'm telling you, it's something that you got to try. The more the juice, the better. I spent many a days grinding the StarCraft 2 ladder, drinking Yingling with olives in it. It's fantastic stuff. Don't do black olives. That sounds gross. Only the green ones with the little red thing inside of it. That's where the money is here. So LNG, huge favorites here, have looked relatively unexplosive and somewhat unimpressive in typical LNG fashion in getting the wins. Now, when we talk about unimpressive, nobody comes to mind more so than OMG. I don't know if there was some internal turmoil, if they had, maybe Cream was sick. Who knows? There's not a lot coming out from that camp, and I don't speak any of the Chinese languages. So even if there were things coming out, who knows? The only way I get news from the LPL is Doan B, and he's not going to tell us about this. Maybe he will at some point. But LNG, OMG, what we say about LNG is they always end up being optimal, unless they're not. The last slate that they were on obviously did not end up optimal, but this slate feels like one where they could kind of sneak in there because not a lot of people are considering LNG, at least from my standpoint. Obviously, or LNG, OMG. I don't know which one I just said, but the Owls are getting to the head. LNG. Let's pull up the numbers here. Let's take a look. Let's take a gander. So OMG is averaging 20 deaths per loss, 6 in those losses for kills. They have 2 wins, one over RA, one which is a surprising game over JDG. I don't know how much weight we can really put into that. I don't think the 5-man scuffle in the top lane is going to happen. I don't think that any team is going to fall for that. That was just kind of like a perfect scenario. It worked out really well for them. They've looked relatively or extremely unimpressive in all of their other matches. So, we come over here to LNG, and this is not a team that, goes out and puts up big time scores, but they are playing a team that is going to, dare I say, feed into them. So I've got them around 16 to 18 kills in a win. I do think that they take care of business and they win this game, cleanly. So you can get the sweep bonus. You can get 32 kills. You're going to get some level of kill participation throughout the team. The question is, will Livmo be a dirty feeder? And he probably will be, but will they be able to overcome his dirty feeding habits that got him benched last year in favor for Iwandi, who should still be the support for LNG? But he's not, and alas, we're going to get Livmo. So look, you can play OMG. I don't really put a ton into them winning. If they do win, I think that they score very, very well. We've seen Creme Able and what they can do, but this isn't the spot for it, in my opinion. Let's see. Well, no, you're not gonna drink olive juice out of a jar. You could use a little spoon and do it if you wanted to. But you put it in with the beer. That's the way that you do it. I'm telling you, don't knock it till you try it. Do it this weekend. I personally am going to make like a Kool-Aid lemonade thing that I saw on Twitter. Looked really cool, looked pretty, kind of looked like Hypnotic. Put some vodka in it. Boom. That's what the weekend drink is going to be. Let's move into the next game. Or before we do that, betting-wise, I actually, in this case, don't want to take the spread. I don't want to take any of these maps. When we're taking a look at kills, I guess over under kills, I think I had this around a 16, 17 in a win, and then maybe like 6 or 7. So I think you can kind of go under, but like the way that they have this under at 23.5 does not feel good. I'm probably not looking at any of these numbers on the kill totals in regards to the spreads. Let's see, what can we do? 16-8. I think that, when they lose big. They lose by a considerable amount when they lose. LNG, when they win, typically win by a considerable amount. They had this game against TT, both of their games against TT, and the one against AL does give me pause. So I think I'm just going to pass on this one. I've had a pretty good day betting today, so I don't want to throw it away trying to force something over here. And I think that that's something that a lot of people do that I talk to in other Discords or might watch this, is sometimes we try and get action on certain games because, hey, look, if you need the action to watch the game, I totally get it, especially if it's a coin flip. But if you don't have the edge on it, you're really not betting smart. Like, so for example, the LDLC Carmine Corp game today, I thought it was a pretty even game. I didn't think that the odds favored one team or the other. I did want to watch the game. I thought it was enjoyable, but I didn't want to bet on it. A less disciplined me with a couple of olive juice Modelos probably would have thrown some money on the Carmine Corp side, and I would have looked really good for a good portion of it. But man, that Zeri W, like when it crits, oh boy, it can be a game changer. Yeah, man. Well, with some Kool-Aid too, the vodka lemonade with some Kool-Aid, but no sugar. Low sugar lemonade. So that's the way to go. That's what I think I'm going to do this weekend. I'm pretty excited for it. Let's hop into this next game. The next game is JDG versus Ultra Prime. Man, look, I don't know what Gelati's article is going to say, but I have a feeling like this Ultra Prime team, we're going to go take a look at who they've played and what they've done to kind of earn this reputation of being a high scoring team. Can they knock off JDG? Absolutely. JDG can certainly lose. They lost to OMG. Again, the circumstances surrounding that loss, I think, were a little unique, but they are minus 325 favorites. I think Ultra Prime at plus 1.5, minus 145. That's a little heavy-handed for me. at least on the initial. Maybe you take a stab at one of these two first maps, plus 170, plus 166. We'll take a look and see which one of those two maps, if you were going to bet it, you'd want to go to. In terms of spread, we've got like a 6.5 here, a plus 6.5, a minus 5.5, minus 6.5, minus 7.5, you know, that area. And we're looking at the kill total being even around 25.5, 24.5. So let's pop over to this data. Let's take a look at what we've got here. So when we're looking at JDG, they lost the second game to top. They lost the I don't have all the games in here. I have it as LGD. Was it LGD? Does JDG played 4 times? They may have. I may not have recorded everything. Nevertheless, this is not a team that is shy about scoring. You know, I kind of like the overs in this series. I don't want to focus as much on this as I do with this over here and up. And they gave up, you know, 17 and 24. Those are big kill totals. RA is a team that's outside of the realm of what I would consider, you know, a fast team. And so I'm thinking if we're looking at wagers here, I do like this over 25.5. I think you could ladder it all the way up over 28.5. And I think you might do something like that throughout them. I mean, look, I don't think you're going to get crazy enough to go plus 700, but I think the kill totals are the spot here. If you think it's going to be JDG winning, I do find some of these spreads like the minus 6.5 or even the minus 5.5 to be kind of ones that you can take a stab at. But overall, I expect JDG to win this game from a betting standpoint. I'm not going to throw, you know, 3 units to win one. I'm probably going to attack a couple of the overs with these two teams. Yeah, why are we doing that? Like, no, we're doing it with the beer. That's the whole point, Spal. That's the game here. Let's take a look. Hanwha versus DRX. DRX is undefeated so far this season, playing a Hanwha team that has, you know, my boy Sam D, who I don't think is very good. Sam D is a guy that we like to attack, but, you know, at plus 1.5, I think that might be a number that you can look at and consider. I'm probably going to abstain from it. Where I want to attack these two LCK games is going to be the totals. So let's take a look at the totals. Let's take a look at what they're going to be, and let's see if there's any of them that, you know, we can go ahead and bet and make a little bit of money on. First and foremost, we've got map totals, and we're looking at unders. 21.5. Man, that is super low. Like that is not a number that makes you feel good. But let's go take a look at these two teams, see what they've done so far this year. When it comes to HLE, you know, these totals are in that range. They had that one blowout game. So, I mean, if you think HLE wins, I don't think that you take that map. But I feel like HLE is like this, like, team that wins the second map. And I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at the spring. But, you know, all these other numbers at 20, 16, it's interesting. When we go ahead and we look at DRX, what they've done, you know, they had those 2 big games with Nongshan, the 2 low games with Bro. And I think that both of these teams are very different from each other. I think they're on 2 different sides of the league. Nongshan being the team that's going to have the highest combined kills per game, and then Bro probably going to be the one that has the lowest. So, man, I don't know. I think, you know, you look at these Nongshan games, I think maybe you take a stab at that 20.5 if you want to get a little action on this one. I'm not crazy about it, but that's kind of where I would go. I'm, again, going to be kind of light on the LPL LCK slate. I tend not to do as well on those because the lines just are, quite frankly, a lot sharper than the ERLs. However, Fredit Brion and Genji, if you've watched any of these Fredit Brion games, you'll know they don't like to fight. Not only do they not like to fight, but they don't seem to have a good handle on who they are or how to fight or anything for that matter. I don't think you can lay these numbers, but I think we can go to the over-unders, and I have a feeling that they're going to be around 20, and yeah, okay, so they're here. So this feels like another spot where we could ladder this down. Are we going to go to 13.5? Absolutely not. That seems a little bit crazy, quite frankly. I think where we want to look at those numbers with Bro, I mean, you could take a stab at it, I guess. The problem that I guess I have with doing something like that is when you look at what Genji does, you look at what they do. I think around that 15-16 numbers, how this game ends up, I think this is kind of like a 14-4. I think it's very similar to the HLE series. I think HLE fights a little bit more, so you're going to see these numbers down. I have Genji projected for 27 or 28 kills in a sweep, which I do believe that this is going to be. I think this is going to be filled with a lot of disengaging. And I'm going to take, ladder the unders on the first two maps here. Not going all the way down to the 13.5. I think where I want to be is probably like this 20.5 in this range right here. So, half a unit, full unit, something along those lines to kind of work with that. So that will conclude the betting aspect of the show. Let's go over to the DFS because I see NBA Live in the chat. I know he's looking for a cash lineup. So let's run through this. I will say I am stunned. I am floored. I am flabbergasted. Every one of the players is in the Labs player pool. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, let's take a look at the favorites. JDG, Genji. What can we do with these two guys? All right, so we got 483 with that one. See, that was a lucky swig. I got a little chunk of I got one of the olives. It was like a little reward for getting past that first part of the show and getting into the second part. I can't say that I hate this. I kind of like this. On a normal day, if these two teams were favorites, this would be a fantastic cash game. And yeah, man. Look, more than just Labs. Maybe myself, be talking about different teams. But I will tell you that my camera didn't work initially, so that we were close to being canceled, at least for today until I figured it out. But you just restart your browser, fixes everything. So normally I would like this, but I do think that people are going to disregard the way that Fred and Brion have played and still play Genji. People love playing Genji. They love playing Chovy. They love playing Ruler. There's some dudes that love playing Peanut. Shout out to Chemstat. I haven't seen that dude in a while. Don't know what happened to him. But yeah, I mean, this is an interesting cash build. I think it's really safe if you're playing head-to-heads and you're playing like the statistical way. You don't necessarily want to deviate, but I don't think that this is a winner-take-all lineup, and I think we can find something else. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're at 486. We go over to LNG. 519, 369 captain. I like this a lot more. I do think some of the changes that have happened to 1211 might nerf 369's stealing or how often he hits it. But in a winner-take-all lineup, I think that this is a little bit more advantageous. I don't know if I want to play this in cash and heads up, but 369 definitely has a ceiling. I've been told that this is an Ale meta. I haven't seen it yet, but I've been told. I believe these two teams have been on the same slate, and I think I have built lineups that look very similar to this and not had a lot of success. So maybe it's due. I think that they are. You just got to check the data on any tweets that you see. JDG and DRX, we're at 519 here, 536. This is that. I don't know. I think that's probably where I go with cash personally. Highest score, you get an ADC captain. It's a 3-3. Can you do the no? So I like that one right there. Let's do this. Let's change this to ceiling. Let's see if that changes anything. We're at 536. Obviously, it's going to go 586. The lineup's the exact same. This kind of moves this around, gives you an extra JDG in there, but I don't think that changes much. 586 versus 582. Really? All right. And then ceiling, I think this is going to be way lower. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same lineup, but there's just not a ton of a ceiling there if we're projecting the kills where it is. So to recap, I think that this is the lineup. Oh, man, this dude. Like, I don't understand. Do people like click on that type of stuff? I don't know. I don't know. Hang on. I'm going to click on it. Jesus. Wonderful. All right, cool. My God. All right, we are back. Let's see. So I think this is my cash lineup. If I was playing cash, I think you can play this winner take alls. I like this lineup right here. You can maneuver it, manipulate it, but I think these two teams are going to score pretty well, especially if you can get Zeka in your lineup and Kanavi, Hope missing. Those are the guys. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Kanavi. There's a lot of talk about Hope, but I will tell you, Missing's kill participation is at an all-time high. It does have to regress a little bit, but right now he is a premium support to play. You could even make him a support captain if you wanted to. Obviously, you don't need to on this slate. So let's take a look at these teams in wins. Let's see who we end up thinking is going to score the most and just, utilize that for GPP standpoints. First and foremost, I think JDG is going to be the highest owned. They're going to be probably around 35%. I think LNG probably comes in, around 20. Same thing with Gen G, a little bit less. And then DRX probably in that same realm. Lowest owned or most popular dog, I don't know, man. I think people like to play up, but I think more popular will be OMG. Just feels like a softer matchup. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they come in around the same thing. I wouldn't even consider playing bro. It's not a bro day. I mean, go ahead and throw it in there if you want to. If you want a henna, you want some lava, I ain't gonna hate you on it, but I don't think you should be playing it in any of the high dollar stuff or smaller fields. HLE, I don't hate. If you want to play an obscure team in a GPP, HLE is that team. But let's see how these teams score in wins. We got JDG and OMG coming up in the top position. We've got a little bit of Ale. I know, man. I know. Streamer recommend. Like I can't. Yeah, sure. I'll recommend it. Go for it. Do what you got to do. Tell me how it goes. I don't think it's going to end up well for you. It's an endorsement, but I recommend you do your own research. Here we go. Fred Brion not scoring well. Gen G not scoring well. I think that stays consistent if we end up in a sweep. Ending up in a sweep, Ale does tend to score a little bit better than 369. From a jungle standpoint, we've got Kanavi, obviously the premier jungler in terms of fantasy points in both fashions. Piosik is up there. I kind of like that, but again, Peanut and Umpty down near the bottom. Again, Chovy, Lava down near the bottom. Doinby, Zeka, Iago up there near the top. Creme not really getting involved the way that he did. That entire team actually doesn't have a ton of data. So the only times that they have won, their kill participation amongst everybody on the team is, in the mid 60s, high 60s. And it was a lot higher for Creme. And he had a huge kill share last year or last split. I always say last year, but it was just a couple months ago. It feels like last year. LNG, JDG, DRX. Yeah. So I think two things can be brought up from this. Up's not mentioned a ton here. They're a middle of the pack kind of team here in terms of scoring. Some of these other teams are going to score a little bit better. I do have I want to say that they might be higher owned than OMG, but here's how I would play it. We talked about the cash lineup. I think LNG probably is a team that you can play. But if you want to play OMG thinking that they're going to win, maybe you don't play Creme. Maybe that's what you do. Whether it's a small stack, whether it's a big stack, you leave Creme out. The question is then, who do you play? So I think most people, if they're going to play OMG, they'll probably play something like this. And that leaves Creme out. Maybe they do something like this. I like that. Leaves Creme out too. Man, the Opto doesn't like Creme either. The projections don't like Creme. But, where I might be interested in playing it is something like this right here. And I think you can reverse that too. I don't think that this is going to be owned. I don't think that this combo will be owned. And I think it has the opportunity to score a lot if both of these teams take care of business. DRX with a sweep, we're talking 14 to 16 kills, some decent kill participation. OMG and whatever they need to do to get 2 wins against LNG. We've seen LNG lose to worse teams in the past and almost drop a game in a series to TT. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. I'm probably going to be playing a fair amount of LNG since they're always optimal, and then just deciding between OMG up. But LNG, DRX, JDG, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Those are the 3 prime targets. I kind of lean more heavily towards the 2 that won't be played as much and hope that up wins. So maybe you play DRX with up, maybe you play LNG with up, because that gives you kind of that double leverage. You're not playing the super favorite, but you're playing a favorite. And if up wins, then obviously JDG lost, and hopefully that means they didn't score as well. Not always the case. Sometimes losers score better, but in general, that's not the case. So, all right, cool. That's all we got. I'm not going to go over the LEC slate. I may do that tomorrow morning. I may find some time to, load up a nice little Friday morning LEC stream, see what we can do from there. But other than that, I will talk to you guys later. Find me in the Discords. I'm in about 4 or 5 of them. If you need a link to some of them, send me a message on Twitter, and I'll get you in. I'll talk to you guys later.